both IU grads. I don't know if you paid a whole lot of attention to the football team last year. I mean, it's kind of hard not to.
Kind of hard not
Especially
to, yes.
Given their past. We are on the forefront of the 2026 season. What are you feeling?
I'm feeling we're going to go undefeated this year.
Season,
I mean, I think this could be our year we beat Ohio State. I hope. So I have a lot of hope, but I'm really hoping that we do. So,
yeah.
And then I've got to put a big plug in for my cousin, Terry Morin, is the coach of the women's varsity basketball. And so they're going to be really good this year as well.
They will. I didn't know Terry was your cousin.
Yeah, Terry's
That's awesome.
my cousin. Yeah.
That's great.
We both grew up in Seymour. So.
Okay. Well, there we go. See, I like to tell people, in New York City, it's 7 ways to Kevin Bacon. In Indiana, it's like maybe 2.
Yeah.
And it is amazing when you start connecting the dots, how all things are interconnected in the state. It's wild.
Yeah.
So I didn't know Terry was your cousin. That's awesome. My youngest, who we talked about earlier, also plays basketball in high school. And so, of course, she was, as the IU women's team has gotten really good. We've been regular visitors to some of those games. I bought season tickets for that. And no offense, IU men's team, the last couple of seasons of watching the IU women's team, honestly, I've been more entertained watching those games than I have most of the men's games.
Yeah. I mean, they play very good, solid, fundamental basketball.
Yep.
And so you could tell Terry's a good coach. She was grew up in Seymour, went to Purdue, was an All-American at Purdue.
We won't hold that against her.
Well, I don't hold that against her. So that was the first time I ever cheered for Purdue when Terry went to Purdue, and then her coaching career just took off, and she's been a phenomenal coach and good basic fundamentals.
Yeah. That's awesome. Terry has definitely put IU women's basketball on the map. Hope they have continued success going into next season. With the football team here in 2025, my gut tells me we will be very good. I don't know. I mean, it's very schedule dependent in the way the big, call it the Big 10, but the Big 20 whatever or 18, I guess we are now, or whatever it is. Be very interested to see how we shake out. And I think the biggest, Illinois, who is ranked ahead of us right now, they're coming to Bloomington. That'll be our first kind of real game, if you will. But then not too long after that, we have to go out at Oregon. And Oregon's like I think there's 6th or 7th preseason ranked. That'll be the real test.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not expecting us to win that game, but can we hang with them?
Right.
That'll be a real test. If we do, then it'll be interesting to see.
Right.
But it's... Again, towards the end of the last season, most of us were at the games, and there was just something about just the feeling, because the atmosphere.
Well, we haven't seen that.
Right.
I mean, being IU
feeling something
football
we've never
fans,
felt before.
we've never seen that. Right.
It was awesome. So hopefully it continues. I get why the university continues to invest in it. It's dollars and cents a lot these days, but I think I speak for a lot of the alumni when I say that just having a program to be respectable and excited about is really fun.
Well, it really brought a lot of excitement and a lot of things that times we wouldn't ordinarily watch the games, and then we would watch the games and do that, and even went down to a couple of games because they were just so interesting and fun to watch.
Right. IU's always been pretty good at tailgating.
Yes.
But we've now just kind of risen that bar a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. Well, if you're down in Bloomington this fall at any of the games, we are on I guess I call it the alumni side, right up on the grass. So if you see us, feel free to stop by.
Okay,
We always have hydration available for whoever needs it.
Good.
Is this thing on? Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank all of you for joining us from wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're tuning in on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you for doing so. We greatly appreciate it. While you're there, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. You don't have to be an IU Hoosiers fan. It's okay. We get it. But we appreciate you guys joining us. Today, special guest, Miss Joyce Irwin, who is the president and CEO of the Community Health Network Foundation. Joyce, welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. Joyce, why don't you've already mentioned that you're from Seymour originally. Why don't you give our listeners and viewers a little background information on yourself?
Okay. Well, like I said, I grew up in Seymour, Indiana, and I've lived up here in Indianapolis since college. I worked for the state for a number of years, and then worked for, when it was Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm dating myself, but Elevance now, and then Eli Lilly and Roche, before coming to Community Health Network, and where I'm happy to serve as president of the foundation. And so it's been a great ride, and all the things that I did leading up to my job here at Community really led me to being at Community, where we can really focus on patients and focus on raising money to help patients that are going through trying times, and to help reduce some of those barriers. So it's been a really wonderful experience, and I've been able to use all my past knowledge of healthcare in order to help shape programs that would help patients.
When you graduated from IU only a few years ago, what path did you see for yourself? I mean, I always ask folks who have been out of school for, let's say 20 plus years, which is me, not you. I know you're a recent grad.
Let's double that. So it's double that.
But when you look back, I mean, a lot of my friends, they said, I just had our 30th Fiji IU reunion just a month ago. And we were sitting back and talking about, like, does anyone even ask what was your major anymore? Because at this point, it doesn't matter. And if you looked around the room, if there were, 20 of us in the room, I would bet that at least 2/3 of us are doing something that has nothing to do with whatever we studied in school. When you graduated, or maybe looking back, did you ever see this path?
Never did. Never knew there would be opportunities that I've encountered, and that's probably the biggest thing. And so I was an education major.
Okay.
And so was going to be a teacher, and was a teacher for a year, and then went to work for the Department of Education and the state, and then held various positions within state government, but I never saw the possibilities of that there'd be so many different types of opportunities for me and different types of things. And so it's been kind of a wild ride and fun. And so I said, you always pay attention to those things that you can learn in each one of the experiences where you're at, because you can take that and apply it someplace else in your life and in your career. And just it's been a stepping stone of just building things to be able to have that career. But it's been wonderful. I miss my days at IU. They were fun. I was there in the late 70s when IU was making the big basketball runs with when Bobby Knight was there as coach. And so that was a great time to be an IU basketball fan, to see the undefeated season and to be able to witness all of that.
That's awesome. You mentioned opportunities. I have a daughter who will be a senior at IU this fall. In talking with a lot of her friends who had their first real big internship this summer, and kind of now starting to think about once they graduate and then what do they do next. We recently did a blog post on the business side talking about what we call strategic collisions. It's essentially networking, but how opportunities come from that. You mentioned the opportunities that have popped up that are unexpected. You can't foresee them. Looking back at those and maybe talking to your 22 to 25-year-old self, what would you say to that person in terms of when they encounter an opportunity that may be out of their comfort zone? What kind of advice would you give them today?
I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot of things outside my comfort zone, things that I wasn't necessarily trained for, but figured out that I could figure it out and how to do that. Yep. And I think too many people, and I would say especially that's true of women, especially that's true of young women, that if they haven't done it or they haven't been trained for it, they may not necessarily want to do that. And so I'd say go for it, because I use skills today that I built 30 years ago, of experiences that I had 30 years ago, in some of my early days of just coming out of college. And so your life is that you built upon, it's kind of a step ladder. You built upon those things. And I think those things where you're uncomfortable, that you step out of your comfort zone and try to do them, it makes you stronger and makes you much better I think, a much better, well-rounded person. And so I would very much encourage them to do that. I mean, that's what I did. I stepped out and thought, well, I haven't done this. This sounds interesting. I think I'll do it. I think I'll try and do it. And that I could teach myself, or I could learn. I could learn from, get other books or learn from other people.
Sure.
I would also say that building that network of people, because I'm still friends with, gosh, even going back to my friends from high school. I mean, a couple weekends ago, a bunch of us all got together and kind of celebrated each other. And then my friends in college, and then people that I work with at each one of those places, that I've been able to apply that to the foundation. People that I work with at Eli Lilly have now become donors and now want to be involved in some of the same thing. And the people that I knew at Roche and the people that I knew at Anthem want to be a part of that and still build those relationships up, not when I needed them, but just to keep up a true relationship with them, kind of a touch base, even if you don't see them on a regular basis, but a touch base with them maybe once or twice a year to keep that relationship going is so important. And I think looking back, that I have people that have been in my life for 40 years through my career journey that are still a part of my life and still having meaningful as part of my life. And I think that's the other thing, that people sometimes forget about that. They think they leave one place and they completely shut that door and move to the next. Right. But it's a series of steps, and you want to keep those relationships going.
Yeah, you hit a key point. So 2 things that I pull from that are, we talked about this earlier, it's that, 7 ways to Kevin Bacon in New York City. Here it's 2. It's taking that Hoosier hospitality mindset that people have,
right.
whether they're born and bred Hoosiers or they've been here long enough to kind of assimilate to that. And just the networking concept, like you said, you leave a place, don't close the door on them.
Right.
And when you combine those 2, that network, especially here either in Central Indiana or the state in general, it shrinks down so much.
Right.
And it can become such an asset, either in a time of need
right.
or whenever. It's hugely powerful.
Right.
So I 100 kudos to you for doing that. And kind of looking back now, it's like, gosh, if I had not done that, would I be where I am today?
Probably not. I probably would not be where I'm at today.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I mean, I see some friends, I talked about we had a 30-year reunion last month. We had a pretty good turnout overall. But there's a few there that don't stay connected as well, or in a few that weren't there. And it's too bad, because they come into that environment and they see some of us who have stayed really connected, right. and they're like, wow, man, I'm missing out. I'm like, you got our number, you
right.
got our email, like whatever, social media, like whatever it is, just stay connected.
Right. And it's so easy now to become connected and stay connected. I mean, with texting or through social media and different things, ways that you can do that. And, I'm one that I like to write notes too. So I'll drop people notes. If I see something on Facebook that somebody has achieved something, or they have a new grandchild or something, I'll write them a note and send them a note and stay in touch. So I still like that old-fashioned touch of writing a personal note. So I'll do that and to stay in touch with people. And I think that's so important, that we can let technology sometimes take too much away from us. But so putting that personal touch in is really important.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I never did that. And then it was one of those Christmas presents where it's like, okay, what do you get the person that already has everything, doesn't really need anything? And someone got me some personal stationery. I'm like, all right. So I took it to the office and put it in a drawer, and I just kind of sat there. And then finally, maybe it was last year, a vendor of ours took my brother and I somewhere, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to write them a thank you note, like physically write a note and send it. And it could have been way easier to do an email or send them a text and say, hey, thanks, really appreciate it. But wrote this note, sent it to them. The reaction that note generated was by far bigger than any email or text ever could.
Right.
And I was like, I need to do that more often, and I need to. So thank you for the reminder.
Okay, good.
That's good. All right, Joyce, you have progressed through the state, now at Community Health. I know what you're doing there. You guys are doing great work. The Heroes Foundation is happy to partner with you guys and support the Patient Oncology Assistance Fund. what that fund does for those going through cancer is tremendous. You and I both know that firsthand. But what is your cancer story?
Well, my cancer story was that I had a physician who knew the cancer in my family, and that I get tested and suggest that I get genetically tested to find out if maybe I might carry the BRCA2 gene or BRCA1 gene. It ended up that I did get tested when they first talked to me about it. It took a couple of times for my doctors to talk to me about it, but when
that was before any diagnosis.
That was before any diagnosis, yep. Correct. Okay. Not having any symptoms, none of that. But just noticed that I had a lot of cancer in my family.
Okay.
And so then they suggested that I be tested, that there were so many more things that I could do, that not to bury my head in the sand. Because I was of the mindset, like, why should I do this? Because it'd just give me something else to worry about. But what I found is that it gave me a lot of power, and it gave me power to choose how I wanted to live my life, and gave me power to choose some of the treatment that I would later get. And so I then went and was tested and found out that I had the BRCA2 gene. Okay. From that, one brother was tested and did not have it. Another brother had my kind of original frame of mind that he didn't want to know. And so then I was tested. And so then that put me in at Community, a high-risk clinic for people that had a high risk for cancer, that they followed the surveillance a little closer than just the typical mammogram or the typical annual testing that they would do. And so then I decided, after several consultations, that I had prophylactically, I did a double mastectomy, not having cancer, but did that so I wouldn't get breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And then, lo and behold, 8 months later, I was going through some of my regular screening and what's called an EUS, where they go down, take a scope and go down your throat, not having any symptoms, but they found that I had, through that scope, that I had pancreatic cancer. Not one tumor, but two tumors, one in the head and one in the tail of my pancreas. And so I went in thinking that and the third anniversary is just coming up to that in late Labor Day weekend. I went in thinking that, well, okay, check the box, I'm getting this over with, to waking up and finding out that I had cancer. And when you hear pancreatic cancer, I mean, there's just you hear that any time you catch. I mean, you hear sure. that you've got cancer, and your gut just kind of shrinks, and you just kind of feel like the wind's been knocked out of you. And so when they told me I had pancreatic cancer, my doctors came in. The doctors took my hand and said, "It's okay, we're going to take good care of you." And I said, "I know you're going to take good care of me." And I never looked back. So I started some more testing and found out that I didn't have it anyplace else. It was contained just in the pancreas. And so I went through chemotherapy. I went through a little over 6-7 months of chemotherapy that was every other week. And then for 8 hours, and then I would go home. They'd fit me with looked like a fanny pack, that I would have 48 more straight hours of chemotherapy. And then I'd go back in, and they'd unhook it, and then I'd feel kind of awful for a few days, and as you know, and then you kind of gradually feel better and think like, okay, I'm going to be better. And so then I went through that, and then I had my surgery at MD Anderson in Houston. Yep. Because of the complication of where the tumors were located. And so in my surgery, then they took out my pancreas, my spleen, and my gallbladder. So which left me then a diabetic. I'm insulin dependent. Okay. Yeah. And so I have to give myself insulin shots before I eat, and I have to take different enzymes before I eat too, so that I can digest food. But those are really secondary to the problems that I would have had if I hadn't found it early. And I was very lucky because we found it early. It was a stage 2. And so they right now they have all they have all the cancer. I still take like a chemo pill more as preventative. So I look at it almost like I'm taking a vitamin, that I take that so that the cancer won't come back. And so it'd be coming up on 3 years where they found that. And when I had my surgery, I was in the hospital for a month. and then recuperated at home for a couple of months in order to build up my strength and in order to be able to come back to work. And so 2 of my goals were that I told my doctors, I said, I know I'm going to live, but I don't want to just live. I want to be able to thrive. And that was important to feel as though that I would thrive. And so 2 of my goals were, one, to be able to get back to work full time, because that was normal. You know, when you're going through cancer, life is not normal, you know, and so much is out of your control, like how you feel, you know, not being too far away from the bathroom and all of that when you're going through it, that you just never know. 1 minute you feel fine, and 5 minutes later, you're in the bathroom, and so you just feel like you need to have some type of control over your life. Yep. And so that I told them that was very important to me to get back. So work was a way of control, and we also wanted to be able to travel. And so being able to travel and get back to those things were very important to me, that I wanted to feel like that I could contribute and be back. And I have been. And so so I'm not only living, I am thriving.
That's awesome that you are. So congratulations, first of all. Secondly, you mentioned this, and correct me where I'm wrong. Pancreatic is a tough one, because the little I know about it, it's one of those that typically you don't know you have it until it has already spread and causes some sort of side effect that triggers you. Oh, hey, I have something going on here.
Right.
The scope that found it, what initiated that? Was it?
That was just part of the higher level surveillance screening that they did. They could either do that or they could do an MRI. And I, for some reason, chose to say they thought they had found some scar tissue before or a cyst. They weren't quite sure. And it said, let's do the scope. I hate doing it being invasive, but let's go ahead and do the scope. So it was my choice to do that. And so insurance would pay for it. So I wanted to do the scope, to go in and take a really closer look. And good thing I chose that, because an MRI might not have turned up yet on an MRI.
Yeah, that's great. So, good.
And an interesting with that, Vince, is that piece of equipment that was used, 6 months prior to that, the foundation had bought that equipment for the for that. So they said if they hadn't used that equipment, they would not have been able to, that new kind of specialized equipment, they would not have been able to have found my cancer. So there it goes. I was making decisions from several months prior of that, and wasn't even thinking about myself. It just was something that I felt that patients needed to have that extra level of surveillance. And so that we needed to buy that for the network. And so lo and behold, they used that on me. And that was what it turned out. They were able to find my cancer and find it early.
Speaking of which, so we're going to go back for a minute. We talked about the Heroes Foundation and the Community Health Network Foundation partnering up. If you would, for our viewers and listeners, talk about what the Patient Oncology Assistance Fund is and who does it serve and what does it do? Okay.
It's a fund that we started that actually, when talking with our doctors about what was something that they needed, and I thought they were going to come to us before we started it and say, oh, we need, again, much more fancy equipment and much more things. But they said their patients really need basic things, like they need help with food, with transportation, with medication assistance, with actual not only gas cards, but also getting people to appointments. So we started a program called Mabel's Ride that Jim Hallett has helped fund. That is a ride service that picks people up from at home, takes them to their appointments, waits for them, and then takes them back, and then can take them to either get their medication or to take them to the grocery store to get vegetables and things for good, healthy, nutritious meals. And so we started that program as a giving Walmart gift cards in $250 amounts that they could use those gift cards in order to go get their food, go help with pay some of their medications, or help with some of their bills and things that they have. We now have expanded that program into that they can use it for, we can also pay for rent and utilities as well. So many people get into the situation and they can't afford their rent, and then they're going to be left homeless. And so we pay for, will help pay for rent and utilities as well. And that's grown. And I think to date, we've had close to over 6,000 patients that have benefited from the gift cards. And last year alone, I think we had another 1,200 patients that benefited from the rent and utilities. And so it's so important that it's much more common, because so many people, when they're going through it, can't work, or they may have a spouse or someone in their life that's helping to take care of them, and they can't work. And so while sometimes it's a short-term situation with people, but there's really not a lot of public assistance for these types of situations, because they wouldn't qualify for that. And so they're really kind of left and just kind of stuck. And so that's where we started that program that's in all of our facilities. And then we even have short-term housing for people that are coming in for treatment several days, different types of treatment that are up to 5 days. We provide short-term housing for them as well, for them in apartments or hotel rooms, for them to be able to stay in while they're there if they're coming more than 50 miles, so they don't have to. That could be, when you're going through radiation every day, you don't feel good. Right. You don't feel good. And so to think that they have to drive back and forth for that can be very difficult for people.
Sure.
And so then we have short-term housing as well. So it's been a huge blessing for people that they feel very much that they know that's done by donors, and they feel that they've got extra people in their circle of care that will help take care of them.
Yeah, that's huge. I think most people think about the medicinal side, right? They need either chemo or radiation or surgery or some combination of those three. But as we all know, or many of us know, cancer has this ripple effect that affects so many other things, both to the patient, but also to their family, to the caregivers. And so the support that patient and their family and caregivers need is, frankly, can be immense.
Right.
And it runs the gamut, right? I mean, I remember 26 years ago when I was going through, there was a kind of a new program that had some of these support services offered, and I don't know if let's say there were 8 different options. Well, I may only want one, but the person in the room next door to me may want all 8.
Right.
And it had nothing to do with any of the medicinal side, but really impactful things to help that patient or the people around them to get through the process. And that was one of the things that helped kind of spur what we wanted to do. We knew it was hugely important, and I mean, here we are 26 years later, and lo and behold, it's massive.
Right. It is. And it's much more common than I think that people really realize.
Yeah.
And I mean, that could happen. I mean, happened to you. It happened to me. I mean, it could. I was fortunate that I was able to keep working through most of my treatment, but a lot of people can't. And so then they're in a situation where they don't have money coming in, and that becomes worse for their treatment and worse for things. And so, and I think when I said before, just kind of thinking of that circle of care, people feel like there's somebody else out there that's rooting for me, that cares for me and wants to see me get through this, and that they're willing to donate and to help me do that. There's something powerful in that message of knowing that there are others out there that care about you as well.
Yeah. Kind of goes back to that conversation about building your network.
Right.
Not saying these folks don't have a network. They, many of them may have, but this is another way of helping to support that network.
Right.
By someone outside of it, per se, if that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think it's all part of that supporting process, but it helps people establish this network of support, which is incredibly needed during this time.
Right.
We're very happy to support you guys. We're very happy that you guys are providing this to the community, and hope to continue to do that in the future.
Well,
for sure.
Thank you. It's so needed. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, we're gonna look at our crystal ball into the future a little bit here. You have watched the evolution of cancer care over the past several years. Where do you see the biggest strides being made in terms of advancing treatments, and kind of what do you foresee in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see probably much more things in the immunotherapy area. And a lot of the stem cells, cellular therapy. I think cellular therapy is really going to be take off and build that. We're expanding in the things that we're doing at Community. In fact, that's kind of the next area of patient assistance that we'll be providing. Okay. We're providing housing for people up to 30 days that are going through that. Some of that helps relieve some of the added stress that. So I think those are going to be two of the big areas that cancer care will continue to do that. And I think it will continue almost like I take a pill every day.
Sure.
That I look at like it's a vitamin. Right. So I think that there'll still be the need for chemotherapy, but I think that there's going to be more and more pill forms that people will be taking things and be almost like a chronic disease similar to diabetes that you can. It's not that you have cancer, but how do you live with cancer? And it's the same thing. I look at it that not that I have diabetes now, but how do I live with that, and how do I keep a normal life and continue going and doing things? And I think that's where cancer growing. I think the incidence of cancer is going to continue to rise. And I think it's going to be people getting younger and younger. I mean, I'm hearing every day people that are much younger that are getting this awful disease. But and so I think that will continue as well.
Yeah, you hit on two things that kind of resonate with me. Number one, I've had people ask, well, what do you hope? Fast forward another 25 years, what do you hope cancer care is? Then I said, well, people will still be getting diagnosed with cancer. We just hope it's like, okay, here's the diagnosis. We caught it early, and here, take one of these a day, and you'll be fine.
Right.
Maybe oversimplifying, but that's the goal, right?
Right.
To your point, managing it and being able to live with it and increasing the odds of survival. The other piece that you mentioned was the greater incidence of younger folks being diagnosed with different types of cancer that we always associate with over 40 or over 50 or beyond. I have a associate that was diagnosed with cancer at a younger age, below the age where they say you should start getting screened. And I did not mean to get into this debate. I ended up getting into a debate with a doctor, which I was like, oh, this is not going to, I'm going to back out of this because I don't have the expertise. They do. But because I made the statement, like, I'm a strong advocate for, instead of saying wait until you're 50 to have these screenings, I've had, just me and myself have had numerous people or seen numerous people, heard about numerous people being diagnosed well under. So you know what? Why not start at the age at 40? Or you could debate at 45. This doctor laid into me big time. I was like, okay, I'm stepping out of this. This is on a social media thing. And I was like, I'm not getting into this back and forth on social media. But to your point, I have now seen this in a couple of different types of cancer where more and more people are being diagnosed earlier, and more people are not just being diagnosed, but passing away earlier from that. I guess my point in bringing this up is, I don't know why that is, and there may be some people who have some pretty good indication as to why. But what does it take to say, if someone's going to say, okay, our approved screening, or I don't know, I'm probably not saying that's right, but our recommended age for screening for, let's say, getting to colonoscopy is 50. What does it take to get them to move that to 45? Is it the healthcare side? Is it the insurance side? Is it probably a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both, and it's also kind of some of the national organizations that set the prevention guidelines. And they look at all the data, and they set those prevention guidelines, and then insurance generally follows that, and then that's what patients follow that as well. But
how many years does it take though for that?
It usually takes sometimes 2 or 3 years for that.
Oh, that's less than I thought you were going to say.
To change some of that.
Okay.
But that's once they have really good data that shows that, one, that people are getting younger and younger when they're getting that. I mean, if you look at, my mother died of pancreatic cancer in her 80s, and her sister did in her 80s as well, which is what prompted my doctor to say, "Have you thought about being tested?" And I was in my 60s, 20 years younger. So it looks like genetics is moving that up that it's happening sooner than it was kind of later in life. And I think that the United, I think it's the U.S. Preventative Service Council that looks at those guidelines and be looking at that. And so I know oncologists are constantly pushing that and trying to push that for people to look at doing surveillance and doing testing. I mean, look at me. I wouldn't have, if I hadn't had a doctor that was, because I'd heard of genetic testing, and I thought, well, what is that? Are they going to find out, like Ancestry.com? I had no idea. And here I worked in healthcare, really what it was all about, and hadn't had a doctor that says I needed to be tested because of the incidence of cancer in my family. If I hadn't done that, then it would have been too late. By the time they found it, it would have been stage 4, would have been metastasized several other places.
Right.
And so that's what doctors are trying to push that to do that. Now, I then went into a high risk clinic that insurance then opened up to test a lot of other things after they found out I had the BRCA2 gene. Yeah. I would like to see everybody be tested to find out if they carry the gene or not.
Right.
And so the sooner you find these diseases, the more options you have into the type of treatment, and the more types of ways you can lead a fulfilling life as well.
Yeah.
But I also know it's very expensive, and so there's that constant balance between expense and benefit that you get.
And I get the business side, totally do. But then I would wonder, like, if you do the earlier testing, and some of those tests are not incredibly expensive, does that ultimately, that's obviously better for the patient,
right?
But in addition, even setting the healthcare side to the side, on purely dollars and cents, have there been any studies that would show that could be less expensive in the long run, finding these things earlier than finding them later and have to do much more extensive testing, much more extensive operations and treatments and all that?
I think there have been found things the earlier you find them, you definitely have more treatment options. And I think that the cost, kind of the lifetime benefit of that you find is probably less than. Now you're going to have a lot of chronic ongoing issues anyway. And you spend, most of your healthcare costs in your last decade of your life anyway. But there's a test out that Community Health Network uses called GRAIL. It's the GRAIL test by Gallery. Okay. And it's just like the Holy Grail. And we provide that to patients that meet criteria, that we've set criteria for that. And that's one of the other things the foundation paid for. We paid for the initial 2,000 tests to be done for our doctors to set who should receive that test and who should not. Yeah. It's a simple blood test, and it tests for 55 different types of cancer. Okay. And once let's say if you would test positive for that, receive a positive signal, then that takes you to other type of testing as well to confirm that you have it and to do more with the diagnosis.
I've heard about that now.
But early things like that, like the GRAIL tests that are out, I don't know if any other health system's doing that. I know we're doing that. We do those in the primary care offices where we are built it into our medical record system, where it can flag people that have, like me, that had a high incidence of cancer in their family, for people to consider getting the test. Insurance doesn't cover it yet. I mean, and so a lot of people don't want to get that. We do have a hardship case in the foundation where we will pay for it, but they have to meet that financial assistance criteria. Sure. So a lot of people that can't afford it want to get it, but it's something that you have to do on a regular basis. It's not a one and done type of test. But I think that more and more things like that are being developed that people know about, and that can start doing that, they will start finding the cancer more. So I think we're going to see an even higher rise in the incidence of cancers because of all the different types of testing that is out there.
Yeah, I think you're right. The testing will only get better. They'll throw more technology, AI, and everything else at it to help improve its performance and the results. And you're right. They'll probably the rates of diagnosis probably will increase. I don't know what the right way of saying this, but it's probably not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, people would see those numbers like, oh my God, this is awful. Like we're having an epidemic of cancer. It's not necessarily that. We're just having a much better success at finding things and finding things early, which is what you want.
Right.
In a weird sort of way. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the future holds, and knock on wood, all the work that we're all doing is hopefully for the better and will improve things for us. Joyce, again, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. We're happy to partner with you guys. We hope to continue doing that, and playing whatever small role we can play to help out the folks here in the state of Indiana. If you guys want to learn more about the Community Health Patient Oncology Assistance Fund, you can go to their website, take a look at it. If wherever you're from, if your local cancer centers don't have a program like this, maybe show this to them. Say, hey, have you guys ever thought about starting something like this? It's definitely needed in our community. It's a welcome addition. I know other folks are doing similar things, but if your area, wherever you're from, doesn't, it's definitely something to look into. I think it will play a very impactful, positive role for your community. So anyway, Joyce, we appreciate you stopping by today. We thank you for your time and sharing your story. We really appreciate that continued personal success.
Thank you.
And enjoy Egypt.
I will. I'm looking forward to it. That's part of my thriving.
There you go, as you should.
Yeah.
And thank all of you guys for joining us on this episode of the Summits Podcast. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate your time and appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget, if you're tuning in on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you for doing so. Hit that like button. Add any comments, any questions, feel free. And then, again, until next time, all of this is in an effort to beat cancer.